Therapists of Reddit, what differences have you noticed between men and women among your patients? I support foster kids ages 2 to 18 with therapy and helping stabilize their placements. Up to about 9 to 11 years old, there aren't many gender differences. In the teen years, they start to show. Teen girls are more likely to try to take control of the situation, skip sessions, or ghost me for a bit. Teen boys, on the other hand, usually enjoy the chance to get out of the house. It feels novel to them. What's interesting is that girls often end up very open in sessions. They're relieved someone is finally listening. Boys are more likely to grab for control, testing boundaries, trying to throw me off, awkward flirting, spicy joke mode, or straight up sass. Honestly, the differences aren't as big as people think. Men do express emotions more often through anger, and they usually have fewer supportive friendships, so they're less likely to talk openly about mental health. But a lot of that is cultural conditioning, not biology. One paradox: I often notice men idealize love and romantic relationships even more than women. And yeah, men tend to channel sadness, disappointment, or vulnerability straight into anger almost instantly. Women are usually more comfortable with sadness, but then they can feel guilt or shame about moments of anger. My female clients, in contrast, are often high-achieving, controlling, perfectionistic, and burned out. They treat therapy and self-healing like a project that must be completed flawlessly. Our work usually shifts towards self-acceptance, healthy boundaries, dealing with anger, making values-based choices, and unpacking cultural baggage like gender roles and capitalism. And it's not just about analyzing emotions, it's about fully experiencing them. I work with a lot of college students, and honestly, guys take breakups way harder. They cry more about them too. I once heard a comedian joke that felt true. Women break up with you a month before they actually tell you. That's why they want to stay friends afterwards. You were the guy who helped them get over, well, you. I'm still in training, but one of the biggest differences I notice is how anger shows up. A lot of the women I work with have repressed anger. They deny it until it bursts out, or they don't even realize they have anger issues. Many suppress it out of fear of being called too sensitive or hysterical. Men, on the other hand, are taught from childhood that anger is the only acceptable emotion, so they'll deny depression, anxiety, or sadness, the real roots of their anger. Or sometimes they swing the other way and refuse to express anger at all, because they're terrified of becoming like the angry men they grew up around. Another clear difference: women more often come in with anxiety, insecurity, and concerns about appearance and how others see them. They even judge their own thoughts through the lens of outside opinions. Men struggle with this too, but usually after trauma, often connected to male figures like fathers. In general though, men tend to have more baseline self-confidence. Women, by contrast, often carry a deep belief: something is wrong with me, I'm not enough. And that's not surprising. For centuries, women in patriarchal cultures had no equal rights, no control over money, no say in decisions. Survival literally depended on pleasing men or being accepted by the community. Marriage, children, fitting in socially. Being attractive wasn't just vanity, it was survival. That history still lingers today, maybe even epigenetically. Even modern independent women with progressive views often wrestle with an inner voice saying they're not good enough. That inner battle can drain even the smartest, kindest, strongest women, keeping them stuck in cycles of insecurity, fear, and anxiety. I was a therapist working with people who had psychosis and schizophrenia. Does that count? Among men, I more often saw grandiose or religious delusions like I'm God or God is chatting with me. Among women, manic delusions were more common. Think Michael Jackson talks to me, or I'm the Virgin Mary and I miraculously got pregnant. Dissociative type themes showed up at about the same rate for everyone. Stuff like this world isn't real, people have been replaced by zombies, you're not my mom. In my experience, men open up faster. The first 1 or 2 sessions, they're super reserved, but then suddenly it's like emotional dump truck backing up. Women, on the other hand, tend to be more open right away, but the important details come out very slowly, bit by bit. With older men, I've seen a lot of physical complaints that actually turn out to be depression. Often this connects to alexithymia, the inability to recognize or express emotions. Because of that, their psychological distress shows up as physical symptoms. There's also a weird double standard. Doctors often dismiss women's pain as in their head, while treating men's pain as more real. But in practice, it's often flipped. Men's pain is rooted in emotional stuff, while women's pain may be very real and physical. One more thing I'd add: my female clients usually come in with a pretty high level of self-reflection already. They know what they feel, they can describe it, and they understand their situation pretty well. What they need most is a safe and steady relationship with a therapist, someone who gently challenges them to be truly honest with themselves. Real growth always requires some discomfort, so together we work on developing the courage to really look inward and face the obstacles standing in the way of change. With men, I've seen a lot of loneliness, lack of close friendships, trouble expressing emotions, or zero interest in emotional openness at all, even with their partners. There's often emotional distance in relationships, plus negativity toward women fueled by endless macho internet content. Many guys carry guilt, feeling like a burden to their family or society, especially if their partner pressures them. Some hold really generalized hostile views about women, like they're all shallow, greedy, superficial. That mindset mindset makes it almost impossible to form healthy relationships, romantic or otherwise. Nothing new here. You see the same gender wars online every day. But in therapy, it hits harder because you see how deeply the system has programmed people. As therapists, we can't go out and fix the system directly. All we can do is help clients develop skills and perspectives that protect them from its most damaging effects. In conflict, women usually blame themselves first. Their go-to emotions are shame, fear, and guilt. Men, on the other hand, default to anger. It's not just that boys are told don't be vulnerable. It's also that men grow up believing their feelings matter and deserve to be expressed, while girls are often taught to doubt themselves and stay nice. Anger isn't encouraged in them, because how can you get angry if you're not even sure your feelings count? I worked with a colleague who specialized in intimacy. She'd say that when a couple came in, she often saw this pattern. She wanted him to read her mind, and he wanted a full manual with step-by-step instructions. When a single man in his 40s to 50s came alone, his main goal was basically, how do I get my heroic power noodle working like it did at 17? Yes, that was the vibe. I'm speaking from a Western perspective here, but culture plays a huge role. Beliefs like a sad guy is weak or an angry woman is a chaos gremlin are still very much alive. My male clients usually come to therapy expecting clear action plans, structure, and direct instructions, especially from me as a female therapist. But over time, sessions almost always evolve into deeper psychodynamic work, lots of talking, open-ended questions, childhood relational patterns, and exploring feelings they never thought were worth mentioning. I'm a clinical psychologist working with adults and older teens, specializing in trauma, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and sleep issues. From what I see, gender differences in therapy are consistent and reflect social conditioning. Men usually find it much harder to be emotionally open in session. They cling to rational analysis and problem solving. When a strong feeling shows up, they often freeze with the core belief, I don't want to feel this. So a lot of the work isn't about the emotion itself, but about their relationship to it. Women can also be emotionally closed off, but usually because of trauma. For example, if your dad hit you every time you showed emotion, it makes sense you learn to shut down completely. With men though, emotional detachment often shows up right from the start, even without obvious trauma, which says a lot about how boys are taught to handle feelings. I'm reminded of Bell Hooks' idea. The first act of violence that patriarchy demands of males is against their own sensitivity. I'm not a therapist, but I spend a lot of time in relationship therapy communities. One pattern I see, men often hear their partner's words as criticism because they feel personally responsible for the success of the relationship. They see her as a teammate. So when she says, here's a problem, she usually means, let's tackle this together. But he hears, fix this solo or you're a failure. That defensiveness makes him pull away, which makes her feel unheard. That, in turn, creates tension that eats away at the relationship, reinforcing his sense of inadequacy. About 20 years ago, I did research on gender differences in therapy. One big takeaway, men tend to downplay how bad they're actually feeling. They'd often say they felt better than they really did, or that they were satisfied with therapy, when in reality, they were just moderately okay with it. Another pattern, men overall were less verbal than women. Alexithymia, the struggle to recognize and name emotions, was much more common in men, and it had a really destructive effect when they didn't have professional support. Gender-related issues show up all the time in my clients, or at least strongly influence their struggles. I've worked with women whose difficulties were rooted in cultural expectations and patriarchal pressures. Some struggle with making friends, especially in environments where social aggression among women is common. This is especially tough for autistic women. Others live with a very real fear of male violence, leading them to avoid men altogether, even if deep down they'd like a relationship. And then there's the pressure of beauty standards. Some women have low self-esteem or body image distortions because they don't measure up. Others do fit those standards, but feel constant discomfort from being objectified. And that objectification doesn't just come from men. It can come from women too. Thanks for watching. Therapists in the comments, what differences have you noticed between male and female clients? And don't forget to check out our other videos. See you next time.